Howdy there, folks. Excuse me. I'm a little froggy today. Got some rainy weather finally. Oh, so beautiful. I'm sure it'll get muggy as heck after, but I did want to do a quick thing. I saw Schiff just bailed on Biden. You know, that's a power play. I mean, just my thoughts. Not that he has one, but I'm in that ladder. I'm very disappointed. It's not that I can't say used to think highly of him. I mean, I respected a lot of things that he would put out there, but that just, again, there is a process in the Democratic Party. The train's already barreling down the tracks. You just don't throw a person in the middle overboard and try to drag somebody else in. That's not how their stuff works. There's a whole process. There's some part of me that seems like there's this contingent that wants Trump to win. I mean, it's definitely corporate legacy media. Biden's come out and said, hey, look, we're playing your game. You know, you all need busted up. And I agree. This has gone on too long. Again, different administrations. Just let this stuff, everybody join and merge. And here we are. And I liked his interview with Lester Holt. I didn't like they said, you know, Biden was defensive. Yeah, because of the questions he was getting asked, and he smacked him down. He was being boss a little bit. So, yeah, he threw it back at him, like, look what you're doing. Just kind of like the right calling for all of us. Again, I said, do not obey in advance. Do not. Never, never, never. Never, ever obey in advance. The right saying, oh, you know, the rhetoric needs toned down, but I don't hear their rhetoric being toned down. You know, we're going to call you what you are. I mean, if you're going to act like a Nazi, we're going to call you a Nazi. And stop it. Like Reverend Barber had said, if you stop trying to hurt people, we'll stop protesting you. You stop acting like this, then we'll stop saying it. So, shush, people. Again, peaceably protest, but call them on their bullshit. Every single freaking time. Yeah, I just can't. I just can't believe the people that are allowing bullies to bully them. And maybe they have their own personal motives or whatever, and I'm sure because there's always some ulterior motive, but I can't believe the wussies out there. Ooh, and they call us snowflakes. Jesus. Sun never been in my world, let me tell you. Anyway. What I did want to come on to talk about was something on a more personal level. To get people to understand where we're at in this moment. And why it is imperative. Women, please, ladies, get off your ass. I know there's a lot of us already out there doing it, but get your friends, them get their friends. It's up to us, you know, to push this over the finish line. We need to help in that contribution, because the things that are coming for us is, I don't think people fully comprehend. Again, single issue vote. Democracy or dictatorship. Or you can call it democracy or Christofascism. Or you can call it democracy or no choice. I mean, these are the various ways you can frame it. I mean, in democracy, we still have a choice. In their idea of the government, on the far right extremism, and the radical GOPs, and I mean, look at that RNC convention. Looked like a Hitler rally. Jesus. A lot of white. A lot of white. And the red column Yeah, coming down and the whole fight. Whoa. Again, go look at the pictures, people. Go see the film. And I said before, go listen to the speeches. Well, they're in German, so I mean, I would suggest, unless somebody's dubbing it, or read the transcripts. Whichever way. I mean, some people do know German. I used to speak a little, but again, head injury, that kind of went out. So I know a few words. I have a friend who's German, so she's obviously fluent, and even she says, again, Trump's America, make Hitler blush. Take that to the bank right there. It's just, people need to see that it comes down to, here's a democracy, and we continue to do that, where we can still have a choice. Everybody. That's what voting is. Or to their twisted way of, oh, it's democracy, quote unquote. Kind of like Putin's Russia, or, any of the other authoritarian regimes. Oh, where they vote. But you already know the outcome. And in Trump's America, there will be no choice about anything. So do you want to vote to keep having a choice? Even if it's the one you disagree with. Like, hey, I don't like this policy, or I don't like this thing, but you still get that choice to vote for whomever you feel represents that, or who don't vote against your interest. Again, go back and watch. But in Trump's America, you won't have a choice. Are you fine with subjugation? Do you know what it's like to live as a slave? I'm thinking there was some people that would like a word. Just think about these things, people. But with the pick of Vance for the Christo-fascist movement, and the VP, again, remember, why'd they pick a new VP? Because they tried to kill the other one. His thoughts about women truly disturb me. And I will relay why. And I will speak from when I was a child and when I was an adult. Women should stay in abusive relationships. Basically, I'm paraphrasing. This is Vance, by the way. Should stay in abusive relationships because of the children. I would like to have a word. I would like to have a word with him, doughboy. And he's a suck-up, stomping on his people and throwing them under the bus and calling them, basically throwing all the shade to them. In what bit I did read the book. I finish every book, but there's some stuff, when it's that bad, I just can't. And that, in my life, is rare. Freaking rare. No matter how bad something is. And then he stepped on, his way up. Venture capitalist, all that, I think hedge fund managers, all those terms are just another way of saying, oh, we're managing people's money so we can take it. It's a grift. It's a fucking grift. And he's got his own emotional support billionaire in Peter Thiel, and, funding this whole rise of his. If it wasn't for him, he would have never won, but it was all that money that got thrown at him from his emotional support billionaires. So whose side is he on? He ain't on the working folks. He's forgetting where he come from, and he's using it to elevate himself without really giving back to it, from what I can see. But his thoughts about women truly irk me. My household was one that was not the greatest growing up. And I don't know a kind way to phrase the household I grew up in. My mother had me very young. And back then, where we come from, like, that didn't happen. Or the girls would go away. Yeah, my mother fought it, and my grandparents fought it, so she could go to school and stuff. But I don't know my biological father. Don't care to. You didn't have time. I don't either. It's not a bitter thing. It's not a hate thing. It's just it serves no purpose in my life. It serves no betterment. So whatever. Peace be with you. The man who was around, my grandfather was my big father figure, quote unquote. Decent man, but he had his flaws. His name was just, your typical country boy. But the man that my mother was with off and on for many years, they were never married. I in conversation, I call him stepdad to folks so they can kind of correlate that, there was no real connection between us other than that. I mean, to frame it in such a way that people can wrap their heads around it, because it kind of is confusing to people when you're talking about, if I just say this person's name and they don't know who that is and why I don't call him my stepfather or this, that, and the other. I mean, my mother's since remarried and whatnot. I was an adult, way old. I don't call him my stepdad either, because, like, our ages aren't that far apart, so, well, I mean, she's not remarried. It was the first time she was married, but that was much later. But that was a very challenging situation to live in, how I grew up. And the man she was with was, at times, abusive. Very abusive. To her, to me. So, Vance saying for women to stay with abusive partners for the kids' sake, no. That's the whole reason you go. Children live what they learn. And that just teaches children that's okay. And to see that control and manipulation and that abuse, mentally, physically, that teaches them it's okay. No. And it doesn't help the children. It doesn't better them in that situation. And it potentially leads them to be the next one, to be the bearer of that abuse. And the recipient. I mean, no. Women should not stay with abusive people for the children. If anything, that should make them run. So their children do have a capacity for a better future and a better life. One not surrounded by all that negativity and violence and abuse. No. No woman should. And as we all know, there are women in the past, in the present, and will be in the future that do that. As an adult, I was in it ended up as an abusive relationship. And even at the time, it just, like, didn't hit me right away. I thought I would have noticed. I was suffering depression though. And that's no justification. It's none. I should have been on my game better, but I wasn't. And I was looking for validation where I shouldn't have. I needed to find it in myself. And people, that's one big thing. Validation, you find it in yourself. If you rely on it through someone else, it's a crapshoot. If you are validated with yourself, and you get someone else's validation, and it suits you, and it compliments you, that's a bonus. But I was on the wrong side of things back then. I was young, and I put myself in, now as I'm older and can sit and think, they were just stupid situations. Like, I always thought I was against all this, and here I am riding in it. It was just, but again, you live what you learn. It was familiar to me. The manipulation, the gaslighting, the emotional abuse, all of that. It was familiar to me. And maybe that's why I didn't recognize it quite right away. And I would pass it off and justify it as an adult, and just I couldn't see the forest for the trees until it became physical. And then it was like, yeah, that snapped me out of it. Like, what am I doing? But you live what you learn. And that if you have girls or boys and they see a parent in an abusive situation, now, hey, I've seen women who beat men too. Yeah, it goes both ways, but the majority is usually the opposite. I've been around that too, from other people I've seen. But kids, you know, they pick up, and you, no matter what it is, even when I rebelled as a kid, because I had just been thrown into adulthood-ish, like I had to take on adult things as a child, and I felt like, you know, grow up way too fast, and my rebellion against that was taking a very adult way out of it, because it was the situation that was around me. That's all I knew. Party, do whatever, yeah, because that's what I lived in my childhood. And I watched. Again, you live what you learn. And my resort was to be a very adult thing. You know, I want to go be a kid again, so I take an adult way out. I know, make it make sense, you know. But in my mind, it correlated because it was familiar. No matter how bad it was, and you know, this stuff is bad, you gravitate towards what you know, what's familiar to you. I mean, at least in my case, I did. And for someone like Vance and his just, I barbaric and dystopian, regressive views, I mean, wow. Oh, but again, it's that rules for thee and not for me. You know, his wife is a woman of color and all of that, and you'd think that would open somebody's minds up, but you know, I could have some thoughts about how to play about that relationship. I don't know what it is, but some pictures paint themselves. You think somebody who would do that, it would open up their mind, and you know, to not, oh yeah, if you're thinking in this whole narrow point of view, it would open up your thought process. But his just seemed to close it even more. Here you come from this poor, impoverished world that there's all of these things surrounding them. Yes, you get out, and then you step on them to get out, and you don't recognize that those people still need, you know, an advocate for them. So it was like, use them and then throw them under the bus for him. And oh, I don't want to be associated with those types. Again, like I said in my other video, I wouldn't, the world I grew up in, now granted a lot of those people are gone, but where I come from, I wouldn't necessarily, I would take that and just like throw people under the bus, like, oh, you're my stepping stone. Absolutely not. Anybody who has come from an impoverished situation, that I don't understand. Is there a selfish mindset to it, I guess, in his case? I have no idea, but I mean, that's just how I read it. But for women to stay with abusive partners, no. I had to watch the man my mother was with for all those years. And there were many times they split up. He'd leave her, she'd leave him. He had a baby with another woman while he was with my mother, and then brought that child home for her to take care of. Yeah. I watched him hold a gun to her head and try to choke her to death. And me, as the brave little 8-year-old I thought I was going to go save my mother because this man was hurting her. I'd heard it or I'd seen it other times, but I don't know if something in me, even as a child, and a crazy redhead snapped, and yeah, I'm gonna do my part, and I almost ended up out a window for it. So that's what, again, women, it's hard to get away from those situations. When I was an adult and innocent, I mean, not the exact situation, but after an abusive incident, a physical one, something finally kind of snapped in me, like, wait, where's my head at? What am I doing? I lived this once already. And here I am in it. And why? Because it's familiar. So I made my plan. After that, I set about getting my mind working, and it's like, okay, how do I get out of this? And I did. It wasn't without its fraught path either. After that, I was in a bad accident, and still not quite right in the head, still thinking somehow I was wrong, because that's how they flip it on you. They make you think it's your fault when it was theirs all along. The only fault in us was our choices, that we did it in the first place or continued to stay there. That's our only fault in that situation. I would say. I mean, and I will take my responsibility. I stayed. That relationship, I went back and forth a couple of times. Kept thinking, oh, it's me. I need to do better. If I just do better, I do. No, they need to do better. The person that is doing the harming needs to do better. And we need to stop blaming ourselves that there's some magic wand we can weave to be better that makes them want to, be that partner that we want them to be. They're never going to be. They're never going to be. It's a show. That smoke and mirrors that play in the beginning to get you. So I will accept my stupidity for going back, but it was, again, blame goes both ways. Like, you're the one harming, and you're the one taking for granted and taking advantage and lying over here, this person, and getting me to come back saying you'll do better. And you always want to give somebody that benefit of the doubt, especially when you had a connection, an intimate relationship of whatever form. You want to do that. You want to try. You want to give it your all. You want to give it your 100%. Maybe I didn't hear, and maybe I didn't there, but again, it comes back to blaming yourself, because that's the doom loop they put you in. And my friend was like, no, this is not my fault anymore. I did everything I could. I have been supportive. I've done everything under the sun I could. I could not be any more better than I already am. And it's like, it's not on me. It's on me for staying. That's my only fault, my flaw right now. So I made my plan, and within a couple of days I was gone. Years later, when, as an adult, I had an interaction with that person, and I was actually very proud of myself. I wanted to see if I could do it. Really, that's the only reason I did it, or else I wouldn't have. I've had other gestures made to me about, getting in touch and whatnot, and it's like, nah, I got time. I don't need that toxic life. I can't. I just cannot. I don't want it in my sphere, in my little circle world here. No. Personally touching me with all of that baggage and toxicity and hate and violence. I just can't. I'm wise to the game. I know what it is. No, I ain't playing it. I retired from that a long time ago. Proud to say. I'm grateful. That's another thing. Oh, we're all a bunch of, miserable cat ladies wanting everybody else to be miserable. No, I'm not a miserable cat lady. I'm a happy cat lady with dogs too, and I'm perfectly fine with that because I found peace in myself with my solitude. So much nicer. So much less stress. It's beautiful. My personal space. I don't have to ask for my time. I don't need to ask permission, or I don't have to coordinate, no, it's just all me. And I am so cool with that. Now, that's not everybody. Other people are people like that. They need that interaction and whatnot. I'm cool. I burned out on it years ago. I'm fine. But I really would impart to women that it does affect the children in a negative fashion when you do stay in that kind of relationship. It really does. And a lot of people don't talk about that. They use the children as this pawn they hold up in their talking points or whatever. Oh, we're about the children. Well, how are you about the children? If you were about the children, you wouldn't tell women to stay in abusive relationships. Again, you live what you learn, and kids get familiar with things. And me, I got very familiar with the party lifestyle that, the adults in my life had. And then I got the opposite when I would go to my grandparents every weekend or whatever, or when I would stay with them. That wasn't, and there was this big dichotomy of different lifestyles. But the one that was impactful and influencing was the negative one, because that's usually the easiest, is it not? I do know how hard it is to leave, and I know how that can also be a deterrence for women to leave. My mother went back a few times. Finally, the last time, though, that was it. But then she went on her path, which, again, live what you learn. So when I revolted, I went what I knew. And that's no way for children to grow up and live. You have to figure a lot. You're forcing them into adult situations way too early, in which a mind doesn't necessarily comprehend it as an adult. You know what I mean? And I will say, I think though that life did lead me to fall into the traps that I did in my early adulthood, because they're familiar. That's why I would impart to people. I'm not just saying, oh, light up and, I was in fear, people light up and leave. I was in fear in that relationship when I was an adult. Because I had been threatened at other times, and there had been other physical violence to me. And again, I blew it off. Because we were told, there's no such thing as marital rape, or there's no such thing as partners. That doesn't happen. Yeah, it does. They do things, even though that's your partner and whatever, and when it's without your consent. It doesn't matter what kind of relationship you're in, whether it be a living together, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, even boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever your lane is, or marriage. No, without your consent is never okay. But there was fear there for me as an adult, due to threats that had been made. And maybe I took a coward's way out, but I didn't know what else to do. Like, I couldn't just be like, oh, I'm gonna pack up my stuff and go while they're standing there, because I felt that there would be more violence. So I acted like I went to work one day, and once they were gone to work, I came back and got my stuff and I left. I just felt it was the safest option to not incur any further violence or physical altercations. Because I might be a tough girl, but what if I'm just and I was also injured at the time this happened from the altercation. So what if I'm a little bit slower? What if I'm not on my game? What, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm questioning myself and my ability because I was injured, and I just didn't feel that I would be up to the task were that physical altercation to me happen again. I just didn't want, so I just, maybe that's the coward's way, maybe people see it that way. I felt it was saving my life. And granted, the path after that wasn't the greatest either. Been in relationships with a lot of emotional abuse and manipulation and control and cheating and things like that. And then finally, I did give it one last go for like, okay, because you know, we get so conditioned to believe as women, oh, you need a man to make you happy. No, you do not. No, you do not. Again, I treasure my solitude. It's priceless. Priceless. You just have to be fine with being okay with yourself. Being alone, it's something they attribute a negative connotation to, and it is not. It is not. There's no negative about it. The only negative connotations it has are the ones you allow it to have. But I did try to give it one last go. Like, try to find somebody on my level. I've got my head together. I've got my life together. After losing everything and almost dying. Had a lot of setbacks in between time. Health issues, and then my rare disease. Yay! Good times. But you get to a point where you get your life sorted out, and it's not overnight, people. It's not overnight. You're not going to have the answer tomorrow, and there's some things, I will be honest with you, some people have to let go. You just have to let them go, because you might not have an answer, or you might not ever be able to reconcile it in your head the way that you are satisfied with, and that will leave you eating with anxiety and depression, and some things, just let it go. There may not be an answer, or it might not be the answer you want to accept, and sometimes even when you're purposefully looking for an answer, that answer may elude you because you are out there searching for it. It's whenever you're not that the answer might come to you, and it'll dawn on you. We all have those aha moments. But it's not an overnight thing. No. Life is a journey of learning daily. It is a journey of figuring yourself out. I have gotten to a place where I feel I have figured myself out to the best ability that I can. I am sure, depending on the situations I am presented, maybe things would change, or how I feel, or it would be an in-your-face moment that might test how I think about things or whatever. But sure, that can happen. It can happen to anybody, and that's okay. We're not meant to have it all figured out, and I think a lot of us probably end up at the end of our lives going, I figured out as much as I could, and I'm satisfied with that. But do we have it all figured out? God, no. We never will. If you think you have the answer to life on your deathbed, well then, the answer is life is a death sentence. There's your answer. So, hey, I'm very straightforward, and I'm very practical, and I don't cut no shit about anything. That's it. Straight to the point. I mean, it's not doom and gloom. It's just reality. Everything born dies. Life is impermanent. Everything is impermanent. And we have the power to change and grow and reach a higher level. And that level, there's nothing negative about it. It's a very satisfying and very happy place to be. At least in my case, I'm very satisfied. I do wish I had more opportunity for other things that I'd like to do before, like I said, travel or whatnot. But is it going to just break me? No, because I'm on borrowed time anyway. I'm on the clock, tick-tock, you know. So I know any day that I can wake up and still be here, and no matter how terrible or horrible I feel, I'm breathing in and out. It might take me a couple hours to get myself going, but get my body to want to work, but I take that as a win. I'm still here. I still have another day. And that's why I want women to really remember the challenges. And that's a kind word, that we would face being relegated to second-class citizens. It doesn't even, Project 2025 and that whole regressive notion of taking away our voice and our rights. You're just chattel, you're just slaves. You're baby factories. No choice, no anything. And look, again, all of the women that came before us, that worked for what we do have. And you want to vote for that and support them taking that away from us? Well, then, I would love to understand what team you think you're on. Like, it won't affect you. No. Don't matter what color you are, don't matter what age you are, it will affect every single woman in this country. Oh, you know, you don't want to go against this or that. Well, you know what? At the end of the day, we're the only ones that can save ourselves. As individuals, as a country, the only ones that can save us is us. And I think women really need to take a pause and really think about how these things, and if you think that it's all superfluous and they're just talking and it's not real. Yeah, it's very real. They're already doing it in different states, trying to take and they are subjugating women. Texas, Florida, Idaho, other states in the South, they're already subjugating them. They've already taken their rights for reproductive health because they don't want to equate that with true health care, which it is. They just want to make it the separate thing that it's not. Yeah, we need our health care. Even as a woman, I had a lot of female problems for a lot of years. Since the get, I had a cyst rupture at 15. I had another one at like 19. I had one in my late 20s, no, it would have been early 30s. Yeah, I wanted it all out. I was tired of the pain, and I was tired in all of the constant just killing me that it did, and I begged for years. But, you know, I might want to have kids someday, and I do not like that whole misogynistic attitude that even some female doctors do take. Like, nah, I never did. It was not my wheelhouse. That's just me. I knew that about myself. I didn't have the money, but I'm like, I'll pay cash money, like, put me on a payment plan, whatever. I don't have insurance, but I'll get the money for you, because I was tired of living in such constant pain. And at the time, I didn't know I had this condition, which exacerbated it. And when I finally did start treatments for my condition, that even took it like to another level of just, no, it gotta go. These gotta go. All of it. And after I finally, you know, due to my age and probably my disease, you know, got me in the door to get that happening, but it took me decades. And we as women should not stand for that. That when we need true health care for ourselves and the problems that we face, you have to be your own advocate. You do. I mean, I at least got my tubes tied when I was younger, thankfully. I could get that much, but still. and I thought maybe, you know, I'll take the women, maybe that'll help, but nah, it didn't really. It wasn't until then, until I got through the first few months, and everything kind of leveled out, and I got much better. But we as women, we are already facing, in a free society, free, quote unquote, the restrictions that they put on us. And just imagine how much more terrible that would be. And what if you do need that health care, and you want to go have a family, and you do want to have those kids, and something happens? In that Trump world, you ain't, you're on your own. Children will take precedent over you. Again, fetal personhood, they're trying to push it. Do you see where I'm coming from, ladies? It's just, nobody's going to stand up for you. You have to stand up for yourself. And Vance is a wolf in sheep's clothing. I don't see that he has any respect for women. At writ large. I don't see anything. Unless that's a ladder to climb for him. Give him some benefit or whatever. I don't see how he has any respect for them to say women should stay in abusive relationships for the children. Speaking as someone who has been in that situation, no. Ladies, find a way. There are resources out there. There are people that can help you. I do know how violent men can be. I do know, and I wish it was an easier task for women's safety, for them and their kids. I really do. Because I know how hard it is. I've been down that road. I've slept on people's floors when we had, my mother would light out, just out of the blue, under the cover of darkness, so to speak. Sometimes it was. It just, I know how hard it is. And I know how, too, it's always, oh, we'll do better. They'll promise the moon to you to get you back, to put you back under that thumb. Please don't. You can be so much stronger and so much better and reach your potential without a concrete block like that that's holding you down. And you can do better for your children. Because, again, they live what they learn. And they'll fall in, I'm not saying they all will, but we tend to fall into traps of familiarity, and we have that tendency to gravitate towards what we know and what's familiar, and it seems like a safe bet because that's all you know. Do you want to expose your children to that and have that be their future? So I would just impart to women that Vance on that ticket should be a big hell no. Because it's not just him advocating for that. That's all of them advocating for that. Sorry, dog's next door. My dog's just, she don't like them. But I'm just saying that's something I think people should take into consideration. It's not just him, it's all of them. The whole GOP has gone full MAGA. And women don't count in their world. Oh, unless you're preaching their white Christian nationalism. Then you count. See? It's got to catch. Got to catch. Got to preach that white Christian nationalism. You got to spread it. But really, you still have no rights anyway. But preach it. And we'll give you some slack. But they'll pull that slack back real quick. And then, like I said, my friend said, in Donald Trump's America, if he wins and make Hitler blush, you can believe it. So, do you want democracy or do you want dictatorship? Do you want democracy where you continue to have a choice in your life? Or do you want a Christo-fascist nation where you have no choice at all in the future? And you won't ever get it again. These are what's on the line. This is the one issue vote, people. And that one issue encompasses many subgroups underneath it. That's why, ladies, I really, really want to impart why it is so important to think for yourself. Speak for yourself. And advocate for yourself and your rights and your body and your choices. Because those are yours and yours alone. And if you would vote for that ticket on the GOP side, you're just signing your rights away. You're signing your choice away to live. That is not extreme, and that's not hyperbole, and that's not alarmist. You are signing your rights away to live. You notice how the numbers of people they're going to round up keep going up? That's because they ain't all undocumented. They got other people in that group they want to throw in. And how do you know it's not you? Oh, because you wear a red hat? No. That ain't going to save you when it comes down to brass tacks. It's not. You're a woman. Now you're second class. You don't even matter anymore. You vote that ticket. Any GOP, they're full MAGA, all of them. They've gone to the dark side. The Sith Lord must be behind the scenes. I'm saying, you know, wielding that wand around that show. Stay on the Jedi side. Stay on the good Jedi side. For all my Star Wars freaks out there. Yeah, I'm a Star Wars geek. All these decades later, yes, I'm still a Star Wars freak. My mother was the Trekkie, though. In my adulthood, I got on to a little bit, but I'm still always diehard Star Wars. But, ladies, it's really important that you do think on these things and the seriousness of it. It isn't a joke and it's not a game. And if you support that GOP ticket up and down, you are signing your rights away. Purposefully. You are signing your life away to live under the boot of someone with their foot on your neck for the rest of your life. I don't know about you, but nah, I'm not about all that. And freedom isn't free. Freedom costs. Choice costs. What it costs you is voting at the ballot box to save your own skin. Because they have no qualms, the MAGA movement and the white Christian nationals. They have no qualms about tossing us over the side. And using us just for their own benefit. So, I want you all to think on that. And hopefully relaying a personal story might enlighten you to just think hard about your choices. You know, because I see the MAGA movement, they've brainwashed people. It's brainwashing. I was kind of surprised, the lady whose husband was killed at the Trump rally. Biden had called her. Of course, Trump did not. And she wouldn't take the call because she didn't want to go against her husband's wishes. And, you know, I mean, there's a lot going on, I'm sure. You know, he's just been killed and all of that, but it just, some of the statements, it just made me kind of cock my head a little bit, like, are they so indoctrinated and so brainwashed that, I mean, she at least blamed the kid that did the shooting, which, yay, but I mean, not yay, but I mean, at least the blame was assigned where it should be in that respect, you know. Like, she's not over here blaming Biden and, you know, all of that. So that was, at least blame was pointed at the direction it needed to be pointed. But she also needed to point it at her boy that she's supporting, because he is spouting all this violent rhetoric. And then we respond by saying, it's violent rhetoric, and they go, no, shush, you can't say that, you're hurting our feelings. No, call them on it. If they're acting like Nazis, call them a Nazi. Don't sugarcoat it, people. Don't sugarcoat it, because they are. It's a Christo-fascist movement. Dictatorship. Period. Full stop. End of story. But it kind of, I mean, I know we've been saying it's a cult for a long time, but just that kind of brings it home, you know? Don't be in the cult. When have you ever seen, in all through history, that a cult ever ended up with a positive outcome? When have you ever heard of that? I can't really recollect any time I've heard of a cult having a positive influence or positive outcome to things. No. So, keep it in mind, folks. These are very important, very serious things that I'm speaking to the women out there. I'm speaking to the men, too. Don't treat your ladies and your women like your property. Just because that word to love, honor, and obey is in the vows, goes both ways with obey. And I really don't like that word in there. I really don't like that word in there. If that were me, I would take it out. But because a lot of men take that really seriously and really to heart. I've noticed way too much. Men, you need to support your women. Because it's not just about them. And maybe you like the idea of somebody being under your thumb, and if that's the case, then you probably already have them under your thumb. And you just want to go abuse other women too? No. Because, you know, women can have some mad skills too. Just saying. Best watch where you tread, is all. Be respectful. You had a mother. She gave birth to y'all men. Get your head right. So, we need allies. Nobody should suffer abuse. Children, men, women, nobody. That GOP ticket and that Christo-fascist movement, abuse will become a daily event. It will be daily. And you think stress is now? Wait a minute. It will get worse. Go back and watch the films and the documentaries from World War II. Go back and watch it. And everybody, you know, equates something, you know, oh, they were just rounding up the Jews. No, they were rounding up everybody. The Jews were their target, but if you were gay or anti-fascist or you were against them in any way, they'd round you up too. That's why they kept having to build bigger camps, because they weren't just rounding up the Jews, they were rounding up everybody who wasn't on their side. That'll be here too. So, keep that in mind, folks. Ladies, really think, and if you're in a bad situation, look for the resources that are out there to help you. And find a better path and a better future for yourself, and if you have children, for your children. And if you're in an abusive relationship and that person wants a family, no, don't do it. Do it on your terms, not theirs. And men, we need you as advocates to be on our side, and not for your own personal gain and not for a catch, but because you don't think that women should be treated like that either. You genuinely don't believe that. So, again, that GOP ticket ain't nothing you want to be playing with. That's a fire you don't want to be dancing in. And when you see the crazy rhetoric and whatnot, call it out. Keep calling it out. Don't let a bully you. Because once you kind of do step away from those situations and whatnot, you realize you do have a power. You have a strength within yourself. Even though it don't feel like it at first. I felt so weak, and I fully own it. I just let it prey on me. You know, whined and cried for the longest time. Woe was me. Yeah, I did. And then somewhere along the way, I found a goal. You know, my goal was I couldn't. You know, I was living in a car at one time as an adult because I had lost everything because of all of this. And it was like, I can't live like this. This is too much like my childhood. It was too much like things I remembered that were horrible. And you know what? I couldn't live like that. And I had a goal. I want to do better. Here's my goal. Here's my plan. You know, take this crappy job to go to this next crappy job. It's a step up because it's more money and more hours, and then get to this crappy job. You know, whatever. Not crappy jobs, but they started crappy to get better. You know, it's not an overnight thing. It just takes time. And eventually you realize and you look back, wow, I did this all by myself. And you get a strength about you. It gets there. It's not easy at first. I'm not saying it is. It's a hard fucking road to hoe. It is. And sometimes you feel so defeated and you feel so thrown back. But just remember, set a goal for yourself. Set a goal for yourself. And I had that goal, but I had also adopted a dog that I didn't know at the time. He just reminded me of the dog I had as a kid that person had taken from me. They took my dogs. I hated that. He would never give them back to us. And they were house dogs, and he made them live outside. It was so horrible. And that was the only reason I would go to visit him, to see my dogs. At the time, when I was a kid. And the one dog that I did end up adopting, rescue breed, he just reminded me of my Duke when I was a kid. I had Newfoundlands growing up. They were great. I loved them. Those were my boys, my protectors, my babysitters. And I didn't know when I adopted him that he was a rehab from the ground up. And it was kind of funny. I was coming out of my car accident, and I was like brain damaged, and I wasn't in a great place, and still wrestling with this destruction of my relationship and the abuse and trying to reconcile all this stuff. And we rehabbed each other, but it gave me a reason to have, you know, it helped give me a reason to have a goal. I mean, I had a goal anyway, but it kind of gave me a little extra incentive. I'm not saying for everybody to go do that, but find those little things specific to yourself and your situation. Sometimes that can make all the difference. And I look back now and I go, wow, yeah, that it really did help me. Because I wasn't just focusing on myself anymore and wallowing in all of that. I had something else, and it gave me that separation from me a little bit of distance from myself and all my in my head thoughts and whatnot, that kind of gave me time to be more specific and more thoughtful about how I reconciled things, and not just living in some doom loop. So find your thing. I just give you an example to say how it worked for me, and everybody's different. Everybody has some little thing that they can point to as a goal or something that they can use to further their idea of what they, you know, want to achieve. If you find that yourself in that situation. But it's never overnight. I have a lot of people that have this, oh, it's instant gratification. No, it's not. It's work. Life is work. Don't come easy. So don't let that, you know, drag you down. Just remember, every day you get up, put that foot in front of the other. It's another day. And that gives you the opportunity to change it. Every day is an opportunity to change the day before and do better for the next day and the next day and the next day. I know it sounds cliche, but it is kind of true. So, alright folks, I just wanted to relay that. So, I'm going to take the night off, and I'm going to veg out, and I don't even know what I'm going to watch, but I'm just going to veg out and have a cup of coffee and relax with my booze. So y'all take care and think about what I said, and if you have anything that you would like to relay, please do so. So again, think for yourself, stay thoughtful, stay curious, and don't let all this noise in the background get you down. Alright? Peace out.